and welcome to Gladys Cake Kitchen. In today's video, I am going to be showing you how to make this realistic turkey cake by carving these messy scraps of cake into a fine work of art. Making this cake involves a few different techniques, with the cake changing forms before finally turning into this very realistic turkey cake. Thanksgiving might be over for our American friends, but Christmas and the holidays are here, and turkey is a staple of these celebrations. So without having to waste your time, let's make a turkey. This cake is made from a heap of leftover cake that I kept frozen. I was running out of freezer space, so I decided to make a turkey from the cake scraps so I could free up some freezer space. I began by applying some ganache to a cake board to serve as glue and started arranging the cake so I could gain some form to it. After each layer, I applied some ganache and laid over more cake until I had a heap of cake. Time to start carving. Carving this turkey starts with a heart-shaped cake, so I began to trim around the heap of cake, aiming for a simple heart shape. The cake may not look like a turkey right now, but please stick with me, it will be worth your while, I promise. A good tip of carving is to carve or trim with a sharp knife. Keeping the knife's blade warm helps to cut through the cake more easily. Also, when carving, a great tip is to carve a small piece at a time until the shape begins to form. This way, more cake can be carved out if needed, because it is easier to do that than lose the shape by carving out bigger chunks. Whilst trimming, I create a valley between the two breast pieces and also carve out the breast tenderly. I clean around the cake to keep it tidy as I go along. Trimming done, I crumb coat the cake with ganache. Ganache is used here so the cake can set hard, ready for each stage of carving. If the cake was baked specifically for a turkey, I would have taken a slightly different approach to carving, but since this cake is made from cake scraps, I had to mold the cake first into form before carving. With a plastic smoother, I smooth around the cake and leave it to set. The pink color of the ganache here will bleed into the covering of the cake, which will in turn mimic the color of a real turkey skin when the cake is later covered. Observing the heart-shaped cake looks more like a strawberry, I decided to create a shelf around the base of the cake using some leftover cake pop mix. This gives the body a better look and will come in handy for when I attach the wings and the drumsticks. With a knife, I shaped the shelf into the rest of the cake, molding and smoothing around the turkey. When the body of the turkey began to take form, I dug out a cavity inside the cake and molded the walls to form the inner parts of the turkey. I also lined the bottom of the inner cavity with some cake pop mix and ganache. The cake was tidied again and left to set before I returned for the next step. Time to mold the legs of the turkey. I made a ball shape using cake pop mix and attached it to the body using some ganache. I shaped the ball to look like a drumstick by pinching and shaping. The legs were completed in stages. So first I crumb coated the drumsticks with ganache, smoothing over with a plastic smoother whilst digging into part of the drumsticks to create lines that will help shape the thighs and drumsticks. While smoothing the cake, I noticed the color of the cake pop mix combined with the ganache made the turkey look like a skinless turkey carcass. Or is it just me? Leave a comment below if you agree. Details on how to make the cake pop mix with tips to help you is linked below. There are also beginner-friendly videos and a playlist to help you level up your baking and decorating skills, so do check that out too. With some more cake pop mix, I covered the hole in the neck area of the turkey and molded the full length of the drumstick until the complete shape of a turkey drumstick is formed. After shaping and smoothing, the cake is left to chill while I return to make the wings. The wings are molded freehand as the cake is made with no template except for a photo from Google stock images. So I shaped the wings first, which will be measured against the body of the cake before final retouches later. The body of the turkey is returned ready for the wings to be attached using ganache. After, I applied some more ganache around the wings and smoothed it over to keep it polished. The cake is left to set again. Next, it's time to create the skin effect of the turkey. I applied these little edible glitter balls to the cake, which will help replicate the plucked feather look on the turkey skin when covered later. Whilst doing this, I was glad this was scrap cake not to be eaten. Had it been a cake to eat, I would have had to make these balls from fondant and marzipan, which would have been a very tedious undertaking. The balls were applied sparingly to cover as much surface area of the cake. These balls will peep through the covering of marzipan later to help mimic the skin of the turkey. Tedious task done, it is time to now cover the cake. To cover the cake, I used marzipan with a little bit of fondant to make it more pliable. I kneaded the marzipan and fondant together on a lightly dusted surface and rolled the marzipan out thin. The use of marzipan is highly recommended instead of fondant, as the texture of marzipan will mimic the skin of the turkey better than fondant. One problem I found with the marzipan though was that it was very stiff and not stretchy enough. It also had an off-white color which wasn't useful for what I wanted to achieve. A tutorial I saw earlier recommended the use of white marzipan, which was not easy to find, so I mixed 125 grams of fondant into each 500 grams of marzipan to balance out the off-white color. This made it more pliable and also easy to roll. After rolling, the marzipan was draped over the turkey and I began to tack the marzipan into the sides and underneath the turkey, being careful to handle the covering very delicately. With my hands, I smoothed and polished by rubbing over the marzipan whilst making sure the marzipan covered all the crevices of the turkey. The warmth of my hands was perfect for smoothing the marzipan, and any tears were patched by pinching the tearing sides together and rubbing over it with my fingers. Thankfully, I didn't have any significant tears over this cake. When the cake was fully covered, I trimmed off any excess marzipan and applied an impression mat to impress on the skin effect. But frankly, the mat made no difference to the appearance on the skin, as the effect was already created with the little balls placed on the turkey prior to covering. Next, I pinched the wings to create a realistic wing effect and snipped the sides of the wing with a pair of scissors to make the wings look more realistic. With a fondant tool, I impressed on some marks to help shape parts of the turkey, focusing on the thighs and wing areas. Covering and smoothing done, it's time to bring the cake to life. This was done by painting some color onto the turkey skin. I began with a bit of blue for parts of the breast areas and pink for the wing and thigh areas, just so there's a blend of both colors. The colors mixed with some water reacted in contact with the marzipan, creating a sticky look to help give the skin some sheen. The blend of both blue and black colors set a multicolored tone to replicate the look of a real turkey when the marzipan finally set. Also, the initial use of the multicolored ganache, especially the pink, bled through the marzipan, helping to showcase the turkey better. For this look, I highly recommend the use of marzipan instead of fondant, because the marzipan reacts differently and helps create a better effect to the skin than fondant would have done. The painting of the skin was done in different layers. After each layer of paint, I left the cake to set for several hours before returning to continue painting. Occasionally, I drizzled some sugar syrup on the turkey and brushed it to enhance the sheen on the skin and to replicate the look of a basted turkey. I also attached the exposed bone at the end of the drumstick. This was rather tricky to do, but with a fondant tool, I attached the bone and worked the marzipan into the rest of the skin. All turkey aren't the same when purchased, and the imperfections added to the unique turkey, or at least that was the story I told myself. Turkey needed some more polishing and glazing before the final reveal, but I wondered if I should roast the turkey with all the trimmings or just leave it as a raw turkey. It was a curious case of should I or should I not. Leave a comment below if you'd like to see a roasted turkey with vegetables, but if a realistic raw turkey isn't your thing, click on the card here to see some other cake designs. And for more on how to level up your baking and decorating skills, check the playlist next. I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching and Merry Christmas in advance.